Just as we should address the grief that comes from death, we should also face the grief that comes from life. In the upcoming interview, you'll see how my guest talks about the grief that she experienced as a result of not having children. See if you can relate to both the loss and the way she's overcome it. All right. Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Denise Rollins with the Whole Heart Grief and Life Resource Center. I have had the privilege of having extraordinary conversations with ordinary people whose experiences give us something that we can learn from and grow from. So I'm excited today. I'm extra excited because I started this conversation very close to home, meaning my guest is my sister, Tia Hall Brown. She thinks she's my older sister because she's super bossy, but she's actually my younger sister. And so today, Tia, the conversation that I want to have is around the grief that comes from losses that are other than death. Because everybody knows about we grieve when someone dies, but part of living involves grieving. And so I gave Tia a list that comes from an exercise Whole Heart does called Stabbed by Life. And it's this idea that we list grief from death and then relationships and other changes. And we have people really explore how those losses have impacted them. So Tia, having given you the list, I asked you to identify one list that maybe you've overcome recently or you're still struggling with, but tell me a loss that you've had that still impacts you.
From the list, I chose birth, marriage and birth, or birth, and because it mainly is because I've been married for 23 years. It will be 23 years in August this year, and I was not able to have children. I can get pregnant, but can't carry the baby to term because of a medical issue that they found out, early in my life, but only surgery would correct it, and I chose not to do the surgery. But even I grieve that decision because I just feel like my husband would be a great dad, I would be a great mom, we would be fabulous as parents, meaning, I can't pass down the information and the wisdom that I have, that these gray hairs have implanted in me.
Mm-hmm. So I think what's interesting is this is a common loss that we don't always talk about. Because in society, everything is about women at a certain age having a baby, and we don't always consider that that's not so easy for other people.
Mm-hmm.
So when you were younger, are there things that people said or did that made your grief either lighter or heavier?
Oh, definitely heavier because I have a super I don't even know what to call you, maternal sister who popped out a baby every other year. And so me being the opposite was extremely difficult to deal with. And I think I felt like I was judged by other people. Like, Denise is having all these babies. You're not having no baby. Why aren't you giving Antoine a baby? And so that definitely made me feel heavier on that end. I felt judged. Like, you're 30 plus and you don't have no kids yet. Well, no, I have a medical problem that they even thought it was some drugs that my mom took, our mom, back in the day. Like, they gave parents these medications, and so that may or may not have done something to me. It was portrayed in Baby Mama, the movie, where she couldn't have children because something her mother was given to.
Mm-hmm.
So it might be something, it might not be something, I don't know.
Mm-hmm. So I'm thinking that if people said to you, why don't you have a baby? And you're having to answer this over and over again,
Mm-hmm.
how did it impact how you felt about yourself? And also, how did it impact how you felt about other people who would ask you that question?
Well, as far as myself, I felt incomplete as a woman because we absolutely connotate having a child with being a woman, And so that was heavy. But the people that said it, I never looked at them like, okay, why are you saying this to me? You're not even being sensitive or whatever. I never looked at them like that, because I probably would have asked the same question. That's how I looked at it. Like, yeah, you probably should ask yourself, why are you 30 plus? And I got married at 29, so I had plenty of time. And I believe that I believe Antoine made me pregnant like literally every month for the first 2, 3 years of our marriage. But because I had many miscarriages. I'm pretty sure I will have at least 10, 15 children waiting for me in heaven.
So how is that different? Because you went through my journey with me of losing my 5-month-old Isaiah, and the thing with Isaiah is I can look back to these pictures and say, here he is, he existed. But in your case, there are no pictures, there is nothing to mark them, there's not even a grave. So how do you deal with that grief when there is no representation that they lived?
Well, my brother-in-law always says a funeral is a part of closure. And so to me, I feel like we never did that. We never did a ritual after each miscarriages. So there was no closure in that way. But now, as I'm older, I find myself envisioning what my baby would be or my kids would be like, and I'll see them in certain people. For instance, your friend, I met with her, and then all of a sudden I was just like, if my daughter would have lived, she would have been this girl. So I'm looking at her like, this is my opportunity to interact with a real human and not grieve her, but love her. So I adore this person. She knows I adore her. And so I just take that as an opportunity to love up on her instead of my daughter, which I would. My daughter would have been 31. So, that's well. This is a child that I carried for 5 months. So she almost was a human. I almost did give birth to her, but this was before my marriage.
So I think that's rather remarkable, because you're taking this pain and you're putting it in a positive way, because you're spending that love for someone else. So your daughter would have been 31. My son would have been 18 this year. And I don't find myself feeling that positive vibe. Instead, I'm looking at other people who have 18-year-olds. Excuse me. I'm looking at other people who have 18-year-olds, and I'm saying, why did they get a chance to raise their child and love their child, and I didn't? So it's, in some ways, it's like a negative that I'm feeling inside. I'm curious. I so admire the positive way you spun it, but were there ever times when you dealt with your pain in a negative or harmful way?
Oh, sure. I have bouts with depression and just feeling very sad. Those are the times I normally just go to God. Like I have learned to that makes me feel better to go into my closet, my prayer closet, and just close the door, and I talk to God for 15, 20, 30 minutes sometimes, and it always makes me feel better. And I just, I express how sad I am. I mean, you have a 31-year-old. So really, I would have, if I would have continued with the pregnancy, I would not have been in your wedding, because I would have been fully pregnant. She would have been coming that month, and things would have been totally different. But when we celebrated your son's 31st, that made me sad too, but it also made me feel like I have nephews to dote on, to love up on, so I need to see the grateful side of it rather than the sad side of it. I try not to dwell in that place. That's not a good place for me.
Mm-hmm. What's amazing is you're my sister. I see myself as knowing you very well, but
Mm-hmm.
yet it wasn't until this moment when you said your child would have been 31, and you connected it to the fact that I have a 31-year-old, that the light bulb finally went out. So yeah, when we were together, what a joy it was for you to celebrate mine, but then there's the pain of knowing that yours isn't there. And
Mm-hmm.
they often say that grief is being able to experience joy and pain simultaneously.
Mm-hmm.
And so, how have you managed that over the years to really be happy for others and to love your nephews, but also take care of your own sadness and acknowledge it and not push it away?
Well, I think I need look at it, Denise, as a responsibility. Like it's a responsibility for me as being that aunt to love them unconditionally and um, take that as as I'm their second mom, and with our mom being gone, like I have to step up in that role. Like you've done that for me as far as you kind of replaced a little bit of mom and a little bit of Aunt Flora, but I I feel like I need to do that for the boys. I need to be their second woman in their life. If they need to talk, if they need to, whatever, to be that person for them because they need that. So to me, the short answer is it's my responsibility
Hmm.
to love them.
Yeah. It's interesting that you had every opportunity to use my fertility and your infertility
Hmm.
as a weapon against me. And I don't really remember you doing that, which is, I appreciate that, because it allowed me to have my joy, but also be sensitive to your pain as well. And I'm curious because it's funny, for 16 years since my son died, I did not go to a baby shower. I could
Hmm.
not participate in other people's joy knowing my baby wasn't alive.
Hmm.
And sometimes, when people would say, well, why don't you go? And I'd say, because my baby died. Like that shut down the whole conversation. So you ask me, once you say dead baby, people
You're
don't
like,
say.
oh, nope, that's it.
But yet, for that period, you went to showers and
Hmm.
you celebrated people who were experiencing what you could not.
Hmm.
And uh, how has that impacted you? Has that helped you to deal with it, or what?
I didn't even look at it like that. I don't know what the answer to that is, but I didn't even look at like a baby shower as something opposite of what I was going through. Of course, I wanted a baby shower. Of course, I wanted a baby, but I also think I accepted it at some point much earlier than everybody around me accepted it. It was
Mhm.
like, what's she gonna do? And how does she feel? Blah blah blah. But um, I really accepted it for what it was, and especially for me, if it wasn't a medical issue, it would be different. If it
Mhm.
was just I was doing something to cause my miscarriages, it would be different. But I wasn't, so I looked at it as God's will,
Mhm.
and why not celebrate other people?
Mhm.
And I understood your reasoning why you didn't go to baby showers, but I just chose to go to represent both of us.
Mhm. I love it.
Hmm.
Tia, I appreciate you. One, because I always say to people, your sister, your biological sister, is your first friend and your first competition. And so I know for years, I know I didn't get on your nerves, but you got on my last good nerve. And so we were like this a little bit. But I love that at this time we could come together. And even just hearing your responses today gives
Hmm.
me more respect for the sisterhood, the love that you showed me. Because in me, one, birthing all four of my sons, you were always there.
Hmm.
You were always there. You always loved them, but also in the passing of my son Isaiah, you were always there and you were always part of that. And so I appreciate who you are, what you sowed into me, and also what you sowed into my seeds. So I just thank you. I thank you for today's conversation.
Oh,
Thank you for being the pain in the neck that you are.
oh
I
my God, stop saying that. You are such a pain in the neck. But I appreciate you allowing me because Denise, I remember every birth. I remember everything that happened with all four of them, which is insane because I have, um, you know, things with my brain going on where I forget. But like I remember them coming into this world. So I was able to experience that through you.
Mhm.
So I appreciate that about you because even walking down the hallway, I remember walking down the hallway of the hospital and you in labor, and then boop, here comes a baby about an hour later, and mom being there, and it was just wonderful being a part of that,
Mhm.
honestly. And so that's why I feel so connected to them children, to my nephews who I love and will always love.
Mhm. And I
Hmm.
think it's totally appropriate that one was born on your birthday.
Oh
Like,
my God.
since
He's
it's,
my birthday gift forever.
it is so appropriate. So I
He's
thank
my
you,
child too. He's
Tia.
so
You
like
can have
me.
them. You can have them. You should have taken them during college years so you could have paid that tuition. But
No.
you could pay for weddings. All right. Well, I thank you, Tia. I appreciate you being um, transparent and
Mhm.
forthcoming, and you just shared wisdom with us, and I appreciate that.
Thank you.
I think it was really interesting the way that Tia was able to experience her pain, yet share in my joy. Now's a great time for you to examine your losses. How did it affect you when the loss happened, and how does it affect you now? And if you get some great aha from that, share it in the comments.